Welcome, chat. I apologize for the delay. I just wanted to make sure I got my guests settled in right here at Player's Choice. Welcome to episode 11 of By Any Means. No Juwann today. Juwann will be back soon. Don't worry. Juwann Winfree, make sure that give my co-host his due. Juwann just signed a 1-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts. That's major for the co-host. And that is something to make sure if y'all follow him on any social media, make sure I give Juwann his love and congratulations because that's major for him. He's going to be great playing with AR-15 this season. With that being said, if you want to be a Player's Choice member, you already know the link is in the bio. Shout out to our GOAT members, Comatose, Hermayes, King J, all of the GOAT members at Player's Choice. We appreciate y'all for being a part of this community. And if you want to be a part of the community, all the details needed are below. All the information to join, subscribe, is major. So we just want to say thank you so much. And make sure I'm not missing any of my GOAT members. And Dorian Clayton, Avian Plumber, we also appreciate y'all. Y'all make this thing go. Please join the Player's Choice community. It means a lot to us. And with that being said, make sure y'all like and subscribe to the video. We got a great guest today here on By Any Means. Shout out to the San Antonio Spurs for getting the first pick in the NBA draft. And also shout out to the JRob YouTube channel. We caught a ghost on stream. So if you want to see that, that is also available on my personal. But with that being said, my guest today is none other than UConn guard, probably one of the biggest names in Northeast basketball when I was coming up. It was literally Bria Hartley and Kyrie Irving. So y'all were talking to somebody who's really been straight out of the jungle, right out of the Northeast, at New York, New Jersey basketball, where it's the grimiest. She's one of the dopest guards in the W. Big time legend at the University of Connecticut. Bria Hartley, welcome to By Any Means.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming up here. So, Bria, obviously, you and I known each other. I've honestly been around your career forever, honestly. Like I've seen all of it. From the bubble to New York to Phoenix. Obviously, you know I love your son to death. Tell him his uncle misses him always.
Right.
Shout out to you, Bryson. Love you, kiddo. But with that being said, we obviously want to dig into this is your first time on a Player's Choice platform. You're only the second WNBA player to come on our platform. Second professional female athlete on our platform. So we humbly thank you for being up here, especially at Player's Choice, because we are trying to make sure as the women's game is moving forward, we are a part of it, and we are a part of it as real basketball fans, not trying to dip a toe and appease anybody. We really love sports, and we really love what you do, and we really want to make sure y'all are highlighted in that regard. So with that being said, let's get into it. Bria, obviously now we are in the NIL era, and you played at the Mecca. To me, and maybe I'm biased, I went to UConn, the Mecca of basketball, really. I'm not going to say women. I think basketball, period. Right, I mean, there's 5 championships on the men's side, 11 on the women's side. It is an abundance of riches. And obviously, you went there during a time when there wasn't NIL. There was a lot of rules and regulations about how you could make money. You really couldn't do most of the stuff we got was really just a cost of a tennis check, and or if you was one of those lucky kids that got a really big check from FIBA every month. I wasn't. But with that being said, obviously looking back, you're crazy. You won a national championship at UConn. You was a freshman All-American. You've done a lot in the collegiate game. How do you think NIL would have affected you when you were coming up, even at the high school level?
I mean, I think it would have been crazy, especially like you said, in New York, like the Mecca of basketball. Like I was talking to someone the other day, like back in New York, we was playing outside, Nike Swish League, Rose Classic, all this stuff. Like the amount of championships I won there. Like I think I had like 6 Rose Classic championships when it was up and coming, being sponsored by Nike. So I just think that's a big deal. And obviously it's also a big market. So I feel like that really would have benefited me. Then coming into college, like I got freshman of the year, then I was All-American as a sophomore and stuff. So I just feel like if it was really hot when I was going in, like it would have been crazy. I remember just my first Final Four, Instagram wasn't actually out yet, and it was Twitter that was a big deal. I remember like literally just in 2 days, I got like maybe like plus 8K followers or
Right.
something like that. And so like Twitter was a thing. So I feel like if brands were really on that and into that at that time, it would have been crazy traction at that point.
So for you, I know like some people have like I'm gonna give you an example. This football player's name is the coldest the Ernest the coldest Johnson, but his name is like the coldest Crawford. That's in his name, the coldest. So he got a NIL deal with AC Company. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think I
Because
saw that actually. Yeah.
yes, he went to University of Nebraska. So
Yep.
obviously, I think about like some of the most iconic things in sports, and I look back. I remember for Skylar Diggins, her biggest thing. Remember, she used to wear the
Oh, the
headbands,
headband.
and I could
Right.
only imagine how much money she could have made just selling headbands during the NIL era. So my question to you is, what do you think? What do you think you would have done, or would have been like your niche when you were in college that you think would have really been something that you could have honed in on at that time?
Yeah, that would be tough because at UConn everything's so uniform. Like everyone got to wear the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, whatever, and be on track. But I used to have like the little shooter's braid, like
Right.
the braid to the side my first 2 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I had like that patented, and then basically it's just my jump shot, the mid
Right.
range jump shot. I feel like most time, like especially see the game now, it's all about three ball and basically getting straight line drives. But I remember even like ESPN analysts used to be like her patented mid-range jump
Right.
shot. So I think that's the thing that like really separated me.
What do you think? So you just talked about something I gotta ask you about because you talked about the fact that it was very strict. And that really comes from the coach. You can see a
Right.
team like LSU in South Carolina. You can tell they got a different kind of swagger because they're not. You can tell the way Gino keeps his shit versus other programs is a lot different. I think most UConn players say that. What do you think your experience was like compared to you think most universities being under a coach like Gino REM?
I mean, I think that he just has a standard that like you really need to live up to. And he wants to make sure everyone's playing together as a team. Because I'll say a lot of us kids we come in there, we were all Americans. We were all really good coming out of high school. So like I know people probably say I was like a little arrogant coming in there, like really, really confident in myself.
Right.
So I think coming in there, just learning to play with other really, really good players. Also, just like being unselfish when you need it to be, which I think I showed throughout my career. I had moments where I need to be selfish and really score and take over games and be that
Right.
leader. And then there's times like maybe later in my career when you have like someone like Brianna Stewart coming in, where
Right.
you got to adapt your game a little bit.
Right.
But I think those rules and everything that he had, I think kind of helped us deal with that. Um, Throughout our careers in college, it just really helped us adapt as people as well.
So you mentioned that there was like you coming into a program where most of your teammates were also ESPN 100. Most of
Right.
them probably played with you in McDonald's All American. It was
Right.
you've played against them in the AAU circuit. Most of the top players, even though you're in different states in the AAU circuit, you'll at some point see them down the line, whether it be at some big tournament or some regional event. What were those practices like?
Man, them practices are crazy. I mean, you're playing against top competition all the time. Like even not even just practice. Like when people first come in the summers and we're just playing pickup. We play against the guys sometimes or whatever. We're just
Right.
playing pickup. Like we were really go at it. So I feel like you're playing against the best in the country every single day. So that's only going to help you get better and better. And the top, like you said, we have so many players I played against who are number one in their class. You know what I mean? We're all like top 10, top 20. So it was just really, really competitive. And like I said, I think it helps you get better as a player every day.
I love that. I feel like some of the best programs, like an Alabama football, a UConn women's
Mm-hmm.
basketball, those practices, those need to be put for the public to see because those are probably more competitive than some of the games. Because to be realistic, like a mixture of just the 10 on your team going against each other, the opposing 5 is better than probably most rosters in the
Right,
entire country. You
right,
know what I'm saying?
right.
So it probably gets so crazy. I can only imagine. So this year's March Madness, I think for the first time in my lifetime, I think there was really all the star power was in the women's tournament this year.
Right, right.
Whether and I mean, I think this year because the biggest thing about sports, and I think you could agree with this, is the drama of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we
Right.
all love to create the narratives and add extra fuel to the fire of these games. And the men's tournament didn't really have that this year. I
Mm-hmm.
think one because there wasn't a clear cut favorite. The national champion shout out to UConn Huskies. They dominated their way to the every game. They won by a margin of nearly 20 points. So it was a cakewalk for them. But there was no big names in this year's tournament that really shook up the room like it did years with like a Zion or a Paolo Banchero in the tournament, things of that nature. Even Drew Timme kind of fell off in terms of his notoriety because obviously what happened with Baylor the year before. But this year we had Angel Reese, Haley Van Lith, Caitlin Clark.
Like
it was incredible. The viewership, they broke records in viewership. This is probably the most viewed women's tournament in the history of the women's tournament. What do you think this is like for the progression of the women's basketball community as a whole? What do you look at from something like this?
I mean, I think it's great for our game. Like you said, we have so many like talented individuals, not just in college, but even continuing on to the WNBA. And it's just kind of been undercovered throughout the years. But now that you see it's growing and growing and growing, and I think that's what you want to happen. We work really hard to get to where we're at. They have tremendous stories, tremendous careers, and I think people really need to tap into it. And you're seeing that now, and you're seeing like the Angel Reese with with her personality and just how she competes and how the fire she has. Like people are like, okay, like she's a hooper, and then Caitlin Clark breaks all the records, even leading that Iowa team to a national championship is crazy. So the storylines on the women's side, like we have them and they've been there, and it's just we need to make sure we're magnifying them for the world to see. And I think that coverage that we've been getting the last 5 years has been growing more and more. And so we want that to continue to grow in the women's game, but we also want that to translate to these girls being pros. Because their story doesn't stop just in college. It continues on to the WNBA, and we want to make sure that coverage continues to these pros because we got some really amazing women in the WNBA, and their stories are just so amazing.
I think the greatest thing, too, about just this tournament is that I think next year's is going to be bigger than this one because Paige Beckers is going to be back. AZ Fudd is not going to be injured to start the year, so UConn is going to be a major player again. Obviously, Kim Mulkey is collecting players out of the portal like Infinity Stones.
Crazy.
Yeah, like LSU.
South Carolina's still gonna be crazy.
South Carolina, Iowa. So this year, I feel like it's gonna be even. I don't see how a bracket is going to place some of those 4 teams we just said. How those teams will be in none of those teams can be in the same bracket. They're gonna have to meet each other at the end of it in that tournament, and that's crazy to think that. I think next year we'll have even more. We'll have even more viewership than this one, and this one was incredible. You've played. I don't think you've played in anything less than a Final Four in your career. Anything less? Yeah, you've only played in Final.
I played in four Final Fours.
So, with that being said, can you take some of our casuals here that are watching you right now and tell them what it's like to play in a Final Four because they could never imagine it?
Man, it's amazing. I'll say like that's like still one of my greatest experiences. Obviously better experience than the last 2 when we won, but just trying to just going there playing in front of that type of crowd. And then obviously also just reaching that goal that you're set to reach all season, like getting to a Final Four. It's just you work so hard. Our UConn practices were hard as ever, and like. Even Coach RM said this year, like people think it's easy because we've done it so many times, but it's still very, very hard. And to make that accomplishment and to do that 4 times every year you're in college it's still awesome. I enjoyed every experience of it. Obviously, my favorite one is New Orleans because that was my first national championship, and it was just a wild game, a wild year. We actually weren't really the favorite to win it that year, so that one was really, really special.
So winning a national championship, most players, they say when you have a hard coach, but you win, it's like all the hard coaching throughout the year you don't even think about it at the end. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like our practices were 10 times harder than the games were. I'll be honest, I don't even want to go through practices like that no more. 3-hour practices every day. Like, even get older now, it's like, Coach, I got an hour and a half for you. That's it. But just like putting that work every day. Then that young, also you're building your mental toughness. Like now I'm older. Like I know I'm mentally tough. I did all this stuff. Like let me work smart. But at the same time, like when you're that young and you're an amateur, like you need to build that mental toughness for when you get older and when you become a pro. So
So I've seen on social media like Twitter, pretty much Twitter. I think that's like the biggest platform where you hear mostly people's opinions about things. And I've heard
Yep.
people say that the reason why a lot of UConn players make it on WNBA rosters is because there's a favoritism to like UConn players. I think now with South Carolina, they're coming in that mix as well. And I've always pushed back and said, I just think the players at UConn are just a little bit more mentally tough and a little bit more pro ready coming in because of what they go through the 4 years before they get to the W. What do you say? What do you say to those who think there might be a bit of favoritism towards the UConn women's program in terms of how they make rosters? Because every player that comes out of UConn isn't an all-star. There's definitely a bunch of UConn role players in the W that are going to play significantly long careers because they just know how to play the game right. What do you think of the people who think there is a bit of a favoritism to UConn?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say I don't agree at all. I think, or if you want to say there's a favoritism because we've been successful when we got there. Right. That's what I'm gonna say. It's like we've gotten there, and you see UConn players year after year after year coming there ready to contribute and ready to compete. And like you said, we're all not all superstars. We're all not all-stars. Like I've played 9 years in the WNBA. I have not been an all-star. I've just played my role really well. I've been a starter some seasons. I've been six man off the bench, and I've been able to contribute. And I think, as a fan sees things certain ways, but then when you get in training camp and you get around these coaches and they see your ability and your IQ, that makes a difference. I like to say like my ability, versatility has kept me in the league for a long time, and then also like my IQ and ability to think the game, and mentality. I think, especially when you get to that level, everyone's like accomplished a lot, really successful, but I think your mentality is what sets you apart and keeps you there. So, I mean, for 9 years, and then hopefully I'm getting back there after 2 ACLs, but I think that's what kept me around for a long time, although I haven't been an all-star, not once.
So before we get into like the journey, because you've obviously dealt with two major injuries, and you've looked great, and I really want to tap into that. But we talked about something before we went live, and there's been a big conversation right now that there's obviously, and I think we both agreed there needs to be more teams in the WNBA. But I think now when all the shout out to Christina Williams, she's one of the biggest in the game. Yeah. Shout out to Christina Williams, biggest in the game. Keeps everybody in the loop for everything WNBA. If you're not going to watch her, make sure you tap into her ASAP. She has everything you need information, probably the biggest insider in the W. She knows everything that goes on from a front office standpoint. With that being said, there's been a lot of players getting waived. And Alexis Morris went viral because she had talked about how she felt like she wasn't prepared well in the WNBA to get ready for the WNBA by her coaching staff in college. And before I asked you to go, my take on that was, to me, she went there and was getting fried, or really had to see, like, you sometimes life comes at you fast. And, there's some places where, in other sports leagues, and you could probably even say this attribute this to yourself. You've seen players that have come into a camp and you knew within the first 48 hours, they're not going to make it. You know what I'm saying? Do you think that one thing people have to realize is like it's not about just fairness, there's also just a step up in the level of competition?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a step up in the level of competition. Like moving on from any level, and you go from high school to college, there's a different level of work ethic and ability and certain things that you don't even understand yet. And so with experience, you learn that in college, but then when you get to the next level as a pro, it's even more competitive. But at the end of the day, like, this is for money. You getting paid. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be competitive. And a lot of times they're like, oh, young players need more opportunity, which they do. I mean, we need more rock spots, we need whatever. But if they're not better than someone that's older than them, then in my opinion, they shouldn't be out there. Like, you got to prove that you could be out there, you could play, you can compete with the best. You know what I mean? So, I don't know how we fix that. Like I said, we do need more roster spots. But I feel like these kids got to come in. They got to be ready to compete. And like I said, I feel like coming out of college, like it's a lot of times the players just because there's probably bigger fan base come out of college, but the players in the WNBA are not scrubs. Like they also play overseas, play at the highest level, play against other pros. We're gaining experience every year. And so when you come in there, you really got to showcase something. You really got to show that you're ready and you have the ability to play at that level.
Right. Right. No, I love that. And I'm glad you're saying it because I feel like, coming from me, it might sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, or
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not playing at that level, I could never understand what that's like. But I also, even in college, college football, there's ones, twos, and scout team. If you don't make that too deep, you can't play because your coach will get fired if y'all suck. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right,
You're an employee of an organization. They're cutting you a check. Like you can't. And I think what people fail to realize is, like, in the real workplace, if you can't do your job, you get fired. You know what I'm saying?
right,
So that's the same thing as the W. You know what I'm saying? If you can't do your
right,
job, you'll get fired. Or they're gonna find somebody else who could do the job,
right.
for you.
I'll even
So
I'll even say
but,
I've played with people or whatever that because like I was kind of role player in most of the teams that I played for, and I had players that were younger that were really good coming in. Just like I didn't realize how good you were until I played with you. Because
right,
statistically it may not be with this, but it's just like how consistent I play, offense and defensively, then even how I'm able to create for others, making the right play at the right time. They're just like, yeah, no, I didn't think you were that good until I played with you. So I think there's a little bit of that too that players don't really
mhm,
see, and then you get out there and
right,
you see some of these pros that may not have as big as a name anymore. Like obviously everyone knows the superstars, but like even some of those
right,
role players, like they're still really, really good.
right. And also, people don't realize that there's not enough games, like you said it before we got on the show. There's not enough games in the WNBA for, like, everybody can't be the Lakers, start 2-10 and be in the Western Conference Finals. You start off a
Right.
season in
Nuts.
you start off a season in WNBA 2-10. That's
It's
almost
hard.
that's a four for your games. You know what I'm
It's only
saying?
40 games in the season. And this is the first year with 40 games, I think. It used to be only
Right.
like 36. So,
Right. So if you lose 10, so if you would have
yeah,
lost, you would have played 12 games and lost 10 to start the year, you would
34.
have already doomed a 30-year season. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
So people don't understand that. So that's why it is so competitive. And then, like you said, I think you made a
Mm-hmm.
great point that people are playing basketball all year round. They're going overseas.
Yeah,
You got, FIBA obligations, things of that nature. So you're playing basketball all year round. So I want to talk
right.
about going into the WNBA. You obviously you're a parent, you're a single mom in the WNBA. You've had to navigate motherhood and being a professional, literally crash course, baptism by fire, all at once. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? No, I mean nothing by it. Obviously I said it with the
Right,
utmost
right,
respect. And I just
right.
want you to, like, take into account, like, there's been so many changes within, like, the CBA to the rules on, what
Mm-hmm.
goes on for moms in the WNBA, for the league to be more accommodating. You know what I'm saying? How, give me an idea of what it was first like when you got into the WNBA
Mm-hmm.
and where the progression is going to now.
Right. Yeah, well, I'll tell you because came into the league 2014, so with the old CBA, and
Mhm.
then I've also been able to experience the progression and the transition into the new CBA. So, yeah, I want to say like there was not 100% maternity leave before when you were playing in the WNBA. Like if you were pregnant or anything, it was kind of to the team's discretion, or if you would be back in time, whether they hold your salary. You got all your health benefits and
Mhm.
everything when you were pregnant, but you weren't guaranteed your salary. So I remember coming into my third year, like I actually knew I was pregnant like I think it was after the first game I found
Oh,
out.
really?
It was very early or whatever, but like
Mhm.
I was just kind of like, I was in that space like, I don't know how am I balance this, doing that. I will say I had two teammates, Taylor Hill and Tiana Hawkins,
Mhm.
who were doing it. They were moms and they were coming back from pregnancy and playing. And I think seeing that helped me understand that like, okay, this is something that is possible.
Right.
Like, I feel like prior to that, if I didn't see it, there was like a negative connotation where it's just like, you can't have a kid and play basketball. And I even had people close to me say that, like, you can't have a
Right.
kid and play basketball. And I was just like, yes, I can. Like, I can do whatever I put my mind to, like,
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Right.
but a little bit of that. And then, so I played until I was like, I think I was like 4.5 months pregnant
Oh,
before I
wow.
even told the team.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I was cleared to play until
So
six
you played the
months,
whole
but it was
season
one.
then? You played the entire
I,
season?
I I ended up missing the last 10 games because
Oh,
I
okay.
ended up
Okay.
telling the coach,
Mhm.
and it was one of those situations where if we were borderline making the playoffs, so if we made the playoffs, I wouldn't have been able to play, and I felt bad just springing it on the coach, like just
Mhm.
playing, and then
Right.
6 months, like, oh, by the way, I can't play because I'm pregnant. So I kind of
Right.
gave him a little bit more of a cushion, and
Mhm.
then it just kind of
Right.
decided like, oh, all right, you'll get the rest of your salary. There's 10 games left, maybe playoffs. It was up to me whether I wanted to continue or not, and I kind of just told the coach like, yeah, I'm gonna chill. Like, I'm gonna just sit out
Right.
now or whatever. So I ended up missing those last 10 games of the season.
Right.
But I think it put me in a hard bind that there was 100% maternity leave where I was kind of like, my job might be on the line. They might cut me. I
Right.
think we had a player that was one on hardship, a player that was coming back from playing the European Championships. And I kind of thought like, oh, they might cut me when she comes back if they know I'm pregnant or whatever. So it was just a whole different dynamic. But now with the new CBA, I want to say like I was a player rep on that, and I was a big advocate for a lot of the benefits for moms. And like I said, I say sometimes my situation is a little different because I know we have a lot of moms, but then there's also like being a single mom at the same time is a total different dynamic. It was even like when I was in New York, like paying for an extra bedroom, it was like $1,500 a month, and I was like, oh. Bryson is sleeping in the living room, like his crib is in the living room. Like, ain't no way I'm paying $1,500 a month. Which he was traveling with me. I was paying a nanny. I had to pay for hotels on the road because we weren't guaranteed our own room, so I had to do all that. And so yeah, the bedroom got cut, but now the CBA moms are guaranteed a 2-bedroom if they have a kid. So that's one of the things in there. There's a child care stipend, the benefit, like you said, there's 100% maternity leave. Now they also have like family planning aspects for women who want to do freeze their eggs and anything like that. So no, there's definitely a lot more benefit for mothers, which is very important if we're a women's league because life happens, you never know, and it's a hard decision to try to pick between your career, especially as an athlete, pick between your career and having a family. So it's very, very good that the game is progressing in that way where we're supporting mothers a lot more.
And I think the craziest thing is like now I couldn't imagine. Obviously, I can't imagine what that experience is like. But I also think the craziest thing about this whole thing is you were fearful of having a child of what was going to happen to your job because you're going to have a child. And in most places, you get maternity leave. It should really never really be. There should never be any type of like fear when it comes to that because like why should it? Most jobs you have, most employers give you maternity leave, you come back. But those are things that people have to think about. And I love that you talk about if you're a rep because you can actually, from a firsthand experience, be able to advocate for it. And as you can see, the WNBA has definitely turned the corner a bit because obviously you see the punishment they put on Becky Hammond because of this how she handled the Erica Hamby situation. And like I never spoke too much about it. Because obviously you want all the information there. But ultimately it was hard to see because like you said, like this is a women's league. You should never make women feel bad for their body doing what a woman's body does. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't really make any sense to me personally. But I love that now we're in a place where we have women like you who are on the ground being able to have talked about it. So now that we're at this point where there's been all this progress made. So playing overseas, you talked about it earlier. You have to go overseas. You have to go overseas, and there's a lot of women that play all year round. You've played overseas, and you've also represented the French national team. Tell me about those experiences. What have you enjoyed most about being overseas? And then give me a look inside, like playing FIBA basketball.
Yeah. So I'll say, like, initially, I probably went over there just like with a negative notion, just because, like, you want to be home, like it's far, it's this, you're going there, like country like you've never been to, never lived in, language barriers, cultural differences, and everything. So it's obviously like a learning experience. But I think now that I've played overseas for I think 6 seasons now, I actually love it. Like I played in Hungary my first year overseas. Played in EuroCup, playing in the Hungarian league was a great experience. I will say my favorite though, like playing in Turkey. I played in Turkey for 5 seasons, and it was just an amazing experience for me. Their league is very, very competitive. There are a lot of other WNBA players who play in that league. And then I played for both Fener and Gala, which are 2 of the top clubs in Turkey. Playing in EuroLeague as well is like ultra competitive. So it also challenges your game. It's really talented players in the EuroLeague. I mean, it's not quite like the WNBA. But there's some really, really talented Europeans that don't necessarily play in the WNBA that play over there that you have the opportunity to play against. And the style's a little bit different, but you also learn how to grow your game and adapt your game to a different style, but just as competitive. So I've really, really enjoyed my experience playing over there, playing for Fenerbahce last year. We got the EuroLeague final, and that was my first opportunity to play in a final. Although we lost, those experiences like you always hold on to. So having all those experiences, and then also my son being over there. My son lived in Turkey with me for 3 seasons, so he's had that experience of going to international schools. I've had clubs that were like amazingly supportive of me as a single mom and figuring it out. Like, and I say last year, Fenerbahce was like so amazing. That was my first time over there. I didn't have a nanny. I had family come visit here and there, but there's a couple of like there's stints or a couple months where it's just me and Bryson. Had him in school. He traveled with me, like sit on the side at practice, and they were just so understanding. And he's pretty good. He's trained well.
Yeah.
To play film quietly, to sit on the side quietly. He's trained. Yeah. He's been trained well.
He's not a loud kid at all, actually.
Right. Since that's been his life, so he's just adapted really well. And yeah, I'm just thankful for those experiences because I mean, playing over there, playing in EuroLeague, it's so dope. It's so dope, so competitive, and just an amazing experience.
And in FIBA, so playing in FIBA, how what is that like? Because you know, obviously you grew up in America, you didn't grow up in France, but you still represent a country. You have all like the pressures that come with playing with an entire country on your chest. What is if you could take somebody into that experience, what does that feel like?
Yeah, no, FIBA is dope. So I actually had some USA basketball experience like throughout, basically late high school and then all throughout college. So I had that experience. And then switching over to the French national team, which is a great opportunity, and it's a great way to represent my grandmother. I've always said, you know, growing up in New York, a lot of people think you're Hispanic or something if you're like light or whatever. They used to think I was like Dominican. I was like, no, I'm French, like since I was like 9 years old. So I was just always really proud of my French culture. My mom made it known, my grandmother made it known, and just made sure they just instilled that pride in me. So it was really great opportunity to go play for them. I had a great experience. In 2020, I played with them and qualified for the Olympics. Unfortunately, I ended up getting injured that 2020 bubble season, so I missed out on the Olympics and the last few experiences with all my injuries. But I mean, I hope to one day maybe represent them again if the opportunity comes, because that was just amazing accomplishment for me. And like I said, to represent my grandmother, she actually passed this past February. So just to represent her and then continue her legacy of a French woman, it's just really, really special.
That is amazing. That's amazing. So you talked about, you know, we talked about your injuries, and one thing, you know, I stalk usually before I interview most of my guests up here. I kind of stalk you a little bit just to kind of see what you got going on like lately. And you know, you worked with a high school program in Minnesota, and on one of your posts, you talked about how they have been a big peace of mind for you as you've had to recover from 2 ACL tears. Talk to me about that experience from going from being kind of like the player all the time to somebody's asking you, Coach Hartley, what should I do here, or what do you think? What do you think of my film? What was that dynamic like?
Yeah, no, it was great. Initially, I wasn't even sure. I know a lot of people told me, like, you ever think about coaching? Like, you should try it. I've also, like, because I got injured again with my ACL, I don't like anything to take away from my recovery. I'm very much like, I don't know. I knew the timing of my ACL, too. Like, I'm like, I can't take a day off. I can't miss a day. So I was a little bit scared of the commitment of doing that. But fortunately, Tim Ellison was the head coach at Benil St. Margaret's here. And he was just very, very understanding. I just kind of reached out to him, just kind of told him my situation. I was like, but I've always wanted to give back, you know what I mean? Give back to the game of basketball. And I feel like I've played for a long time. I've had a lot of experience where I can hold some value and teach players, the younger generation, just kind of about my experiences and just help them get to where they want to be. So it was really, really, really dope going there and having that experience. I remember the first game that I was able to coach, we played Hopkins, and I don't know, that's Paige Becker's old team.
Yeah.
and they're one of the top teams in Minnesota. We're playing against them, and I was like up out my seat, like amped about the game, and I was just like, man, I really love the game of basketball.
Right.
And sometimes when you're injured and you're not around the team and you're just here rehabbing, like you don't really have that experience. A lot of times, like my workouts is like me one-on-one, me by myself. There's no team atmosphere. So I felt like that was just very, very special to me. And then I think the girls also like took to me very well. I'm not a super vocal type coach. I'm just kind of like, I'm gonna go talk to you, pull you to the side one-on-one. I'm gonna keep it real with you though, but I'm talking to you, pull you to the side one-on-one. And then I just noticed as the year went on, like the girls just kind of kept coming to me asking, what should I do here? What should I do here? Da, da, da. And like I would just help them the best way I can. And then sometimes like they're really talented. We had a really talented group of girls, but also just mentally, like we said, when you get to that next level, it's about the mental game. So I think the biggest thing for me was just like the mindset and approach to different things and dealing with adversity, or players being like, I can't make a shot right now. And it's just like, all right, there's so many other things you can do on the basketball court. Like, especially one of our players, like, you're the best player on the floor. Although you're missing shots right now, you're able to create for other people. You're still drawing all this attention, and just kind of teach them the different aspects of basketball outside of just scoring and just like statistical things. So that was a really cool experience. And then we went on to win the state championship. So I was like, that was super fun because I never won a state championship in high school. Unfortunately, one of our kids, she went down with an ACL in the semifinals of state. But then that's also like another avenue where I can be of value to her and just kind of talk about my experience, or like, if you ever need anything, like, let me know what you need. I can help you. She actually does PT at the same place that I do PT. So awesome. That's really cool. I'll see her in there sometimes. If she ever needs anything, she knows she could text me and stuff. So that's been a really cool experience, just being able to give back to the next generation of really talented players.
I mean, ultimately too, I think, you know, you talked about you're not really like the most vocal, but you did it. You know what I'm saying? So I think for these young kids, like you got somebody who is a professional athlete that is coaching you in the game, and they're doing it right now. Like, you've seen every iteration of this game evolved up to this point. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And because of that, the lessons you have probably invaluable. You know, I can only imagine, like, you know, my high school DB coach, he played corner at Temple, and I loved him to death because, you know, I had a different level of respect for him as a coach because I was getting recruited to play D1. He did it already. You know what I'm saying? And so he knows everything that I'm about to embark on, but he also knows everything that it's going to take for me to become a better player. Because like you said before, everybody's talented at the next level. It's about who's processing better. You know what I'm saying? And that's the biggest part of it. So I love that. Obviously, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I got one more question for you.
Okay.
You talked about your recovery and you're in this twist ACLs, and you know, people, young athletes in general, go through so much adversity, whether it be mental, physical, social media. You deal with a lot. There's a lot of noise at athletes all the time, and you've dealt with 2 ACL tears. Most people can give up. You know what I'm saying? And you have shown a legitimate, you know, you said it, like, I don't have no time to waste. You have a legitimate want to succeed and to be able to get back out there and be the player that you know you are, that I know you are, and that everybody else in your corner knows you are, and you've put that work in. What is your advice to a young athlete? What is your advice to young athletes who are going through this point in their careers, or if they ever feel like they're at a crossroads, you know, because of maybe how things are working out, but they still love the game. They just don't know if the game loves them back, per se.
Yeah, right. I will say, I think the biggest thing for me is show up every day. I will say I've been, like I said, this is my second rehab process. I tore my ACL July 24th. I've been in the gym. I missed 6 days for my brother's wedding, and I took one vacation for 10 days to go to Europe since July. So I make sure I'm in there every day. I go to PT 5 times a week, and I would even go on Saturday sometimes. And I just show up. And I know me, I'm not the type, like, they're like, oh, like, you can do this workout at home. Like, nah, I need to come in. Like, I know that about myself, and then I put in the work. And when I go in there and they're like, we need to get this done, we need to get this done, I'm like, I get it done. I don't complain. I get through it. If it's also at the same time, though, I have to listen to my body. If there's days where it's like, oh, it's a little sore and they need to adjust what I need to do, cool, but I still go on there and I show up every day. And that's the biggest thing. Like, especially with the ACL, you have good days and you have bad days, but as long as you show up and you do what you can, I think you'll have a lot of success and you'll see a lot of progress.
I love that. I love that. Simple. Just show up. I think that's as best as you could put it. You know what I'm saying? I love
Mm-hmm.
that. So, Bria, before we let you go, I want to say on behalf of everybody here at Players Choice, I want to just say thank you for coming on our platform. You being up here is major in what we want to do going forward at this platform. So we
Mm-hmm.
thank you so much for being up here. My final question is: there's 4 teams left from the 2020 bubble currently in the NBA playoffs. What are your outcomes
Ooh.
for Western Conference and the Eastern Conference? And then who is your winner in the NBA Finals this year? And if you could pick an MVP, you got to get a Finals MVP.
MVP, dang. I'll be honest, my 2 teams I like what really wanted to win are gone. But let me see. I'm gonna go with Denver
Okay.
for Western because they're tough. They're tough. They're a
Mm-hmm.
good team. I was rooting for the Suns, and then I
Mm-hmm.
actually got to go to a game. But Denver is just. I feel like they have a complete team.
Okay.
Um, on the East, I'm gonna go Boston, and then in the finals. Dang, I would love. I don't know what their matchup was this year, but I'm gonna go with Denver to win it all.
Okay.
Denver Nuggets.
Okay. Okay. I like
Yep.
it. So
So
Jokic wins the Finals MVP. I'm gonna assume it's him. He's gonna try to average a triple double. So I'm assuming that's
yeah.
gonna be MVP.
Well, you never know. Jamal Murray might go off too. He
He
coming
could
off back
explode
off an
too.
ACL. He had some games where he was balling, so if he could do that
That's true.
consistently too. But
That's
obviously
true
they're
too.
gonna compete.
He could easily average 35, 8, and 8. It could go to either one of them. I could see it going either or. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the Lakers down to the finish. I just think Anthony.
Dang.
I'm going to take Lakers down to the finish. I'm not going to lie. It's just I think Anthony Davis right now is playing some of the best basketball in his career.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I think when he's healthy, there isn't a big in basketball that can stop him because I think the way
That's
he
valid.
impacts the game on the defensive end. I think just his defense is so impactful that I will go with him. I think they're going to end up playing the Celtics just because I think they got a little bit more depth than the Miami Heat. I think they're
Right.
too Jimmy Butler centric at times, and
Right.
I think they got a lot more going in terms of like the depth, and they can hit you in a lot of different ways in
Yep.
with Boston. So we'll see how it shakes out. It'll be crazy if 2 teams that started this run in the playoffs go to the finals. That'll be some
Right.
incredible stuff.
That'd be crazy.
That'd be crazy. But with that being said, that's our show. Chat, thank you so much for kicking with us. Bria, thank you for coming on our platform. Again, we appreciate it. And till
Thanks for
next
having
time,
me.
chat, we'll see you, of course, anytime. I hope you get to come up here again. And anybody that is going through something, just show up.
Yep.
Thank you. Peace.
Later.